Hey, Will King here, and today on the Build Show, I want to give you 2 tips that I wish I knew 7 years ago of things you should do before hanging drywall at your next project. So let's take a look at them. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is air sealing. And I know that's a very broad topic, and it's one that we have continuously talked about in the industry for several years, just over and over and over. But what I want to talk about today is just how we blower door before we insulate, before we hang drywall. You know, I kind of feel like if you blower door test only at the end of construction, it's really just a trophy at that point. You don't really have an opportunity to go back and fix anything. And when we started, we bought our blower door, first of all. We actually just invested in our own blower, our blower door test. And so what we started doing is just, you know, basically the same process. So we would, like in our houses, we have to insulate the attics with spray foam. We don't have to, that's just how we build here. So we have open cell foam on our roof decks, and that's what gives us the air seal up top. But everything else we depend on is our zip system on the outside for that air barrier. So before we insulate, so after our mechanicals are all out of the walls, so electrical, plumbing, ventilation, all the HVAC, we air seal all those penetrations on the outside with things like liquid flash, stretch tape, and even Sega fin trim tape at the bottom of our foundations. And then we blower door. And so our guys will set up the blower door test and run it. And our target at that point is less than 2. That's where I really like to see our houses perform. And so they'll turn the test on, and we walk around with can foam, with zip tape, with stretch tape. We have all the tools in the toolbox with us at that point. And we run our hands around all the windows, all the doors, all the penetrations, whether it's an electrical wire going to an outlet, whether it's a piece of PEX going out to a water line, or whatever it might be, and we check for leakage. And one, you know, even a big spot is even between the floors. That's always seems to be one of the biggest leaky parts that I've seen, is in the floor systems of the trusses between the floors. So we go through and we check for those before we insulate. And that's just a really good practice as a builder. And I had no idea as a new builder that was a good idea. And what it's done, not only has it made our houses perform better, but it's also made our project managers and all our staff more aware of the whole process and why we do what we do. All right, so tip number 2 is gonna be take pictures. And that's the thing that I didn't do when I first started building. And then as we realized the pains of having to go back and find where that electrical outlet was that was covered up by drywall, or where a water line was because we had a leak that was mysterious, I realized taking pictures was key. And to start with, all we did was take iPhone pictures or phone pictures of every room in the house. And then we would take a walkthrough video. And again, I'm talking after mechanicals are done, before insulation, before drywall. Fast forward to that though, you know, how we've progressed from just iPhone photos, we now use a system called iGuide. So the iGuide comes in by email, and there's a link that our photographer sends us. Inside that email, there's also some basic floor plans. Now, obviously on a new house, not that big of a deal because we have floor plans that we reference. But think for a second about remodeling. You know, I've started using this same service for even a remodel job. If we're going in to look and get design done, we go and shoot it with the iGuide first, because then we can create a quick floor plan, for one, to measure all our square footage, and then 2, we can reference it in our office when we're making decisions from a design standpoint. Just like something that you've probably seen on a real estate website for a house that's for sale. I think Matterport might be the camera they use there a lot of times. You can go room to room, and you know, again, you can scroll around, look up at the ceiling, find gas lines, find the speaker wires. Our low voltage company loves this because a lot of times they'll lay speaker wires above the sheetrock, and it's just a quick reference for them when they come back to install speakers, to just verify that they're not going to cut a hole in the wrong spot. Because I can tell you, there's nothing worse than coming down to the end and somebody cutting a hole above a kitchen island in the wrong spot, because everything else is finished, and now we're trying to patch an entire ceiling in a finished kitchen space. That's an absolute disaster. I will say this, taking pictures and specifically even a 3D tour like an iGuide program has saved my bacon more times than one. I'll give you one example of how this has saved me for a lot of pain. So recent project we just closed out, I had a customer ask me for additional electrical outlet in their closet for a safe to plug into. And now, obviously, I call our electricians and ask them to come perform that task. But before he even got there, I pulled out the iGuide and I went into the master closet and I found the wall that had the existing plugs already there, took a screenshot and just texted it to him of that specific area, because there's also an air conditioner condensate line in that same wall. And it would be a disaster if for some reason he cut that, because now we're having to patch copper and PVC and everything else. So just being able to quickly reference, grab a screen grab of it or a screenshot of it and send it to a contractor can be a huge benefit. All right, so I hope those 2 tips help you. And I know those are 2 things that I really wish that I knew when I was a new builder, when I first got started. But if you're not already following me on Instagram, please go do so. It's at Will King Builds. We're posting weekly right here on Build Show Network. And just remember, iron sharpens iron, so keep grinding, keep watching these videos, and we'll see you right here on the Build Show.